broke my arm, dislocated the elbow joint. I actually thought I was dead. I was a little bit worried that I'd never be able to get the proper use of my right arm again, but managed to get over that, and that didn't happen. What we've got to do when we have these little incidences and accidents, things that are out of our control, is we've got to come to terms with ways of dealing with those hiccups in life that come along. Welcome to artOfficial. I'm Janice Brown, a Sydney Australiana artist, and I can't wait to show you what I've got planned. Let's start back. Who am I? I was born in Sydney in a beautiful seaside place called Bundeena, which a lot of my artwork recently is inspired by. But I also was brought up in the western suburbs here, very close to Parramatta here at Mic'd Up. Now, interesting thing about me is I had 3 near-death experiences before I was the age of 2. There's been a few since then. What has this taught me? It's actually taught me resilience and to be tough. And I consider myself a survivor. Now, I'm not going to bore you. I hate that word. I want to tell you where I'm at now and why I'm happy to be here and why I'm doing this podcast. It's not just going to be about me. I'll be having guests in from a creative background, all different creative backgrounds, whether it's an author, a visual artist, a photographer, you name it, they're going to be able to share their stories. And the reason why I'm saying this is the long road to my visual art journey goes right back. But I'm going to do it in stages so it's not too long because, I'm over 60 now and, you've got better things to do. Let me start back by when I was the age of 10. When I was 10, I had 2 fantastic teachers, Mr. Titley and Mr. Hamer. And these 2 teachers made a difference. They really inspired the class. And for me, they brought in tripods of cameras. They got us to create our own dramas, and it gave me the sense of freedom to express myself. Later on, into my high school years, I really did a lot of work in drama. And then at the age of 15, I got into what's called television operational techniques at North Sydney TAFE. Now, keep in mind, I was only 15 years old. I was the youngest in the class, and it taught me a lot about life, good and bad. After that, I worked as a layouts assistant in an animation studio in Sydney and had a ball until one of the wars ended up making it hard to not even get paid, and unfortunately the company became non-existent. What it did teach me, though, is where I'm at now, those skills, those life skills throughout my growing up has made me who I am today. In particular, in 2020. Now, I know that's a significant year. Most of us still remember it, even though it was only 6 years ago. Things changed. The whole world changed. And what could we have done? It was out of our control. Not only the pandemic affected me in the sense that obviously our work's environment changed, but my work environment as a teacher significantly changed, and not for the better. I had a real decision to make. And during that year, I actually rang HR and explained to them what was going on, and it wasn't good. And the gentleman on the phone said, "Hey, Janice, why don't you take your long service leave at half pay and have the rest of the year off? And if you decide to go back to that job, that's up to you." And I said, "You know what? That's a really good idea. I'm going to do it." And that's when I discovered a different type of creative arts to what I was used to when I was younger. I actually have, for what a better term, a bit of a flair with visual art. So much so that by the end of the year, by the end of 2020, I had to make a decision. Was it going to be a hobby or was it going to be a business? Now, together with my partner, my husband, David, we chose. I wanted it to be a business. I didn't want to give up teaching. I had studied at uni as a mature-age student for 6 years whilst raising a family, and I'm not going to give that away. I've dug my heels in. But what I could do was keep my casual number. So I relinquished my permanent teaching number, gave it to a colleague who I'd actually personally trained, and then continued with my art journey. In 2021, I got my ABN called Sydney Insights, and now I have my own website, www.janicebrown.com.au. The reason why I'm doing the podcast is I want to share with you the resilience, how to combat resilience, how to stay happy in a world that's so complex and so full of negativity. I'll be sharing with you interviews with guest invites that come in, guest speakers that come in to share their story. And as what is keeping them going with their small business, what is keeping them happy with the cost of living that we all face. So, back to this. How do we gain resilience? How can we flip something negative into a positive? I like to illustrate it this way. When we buy a product, or even something big like a car, what does it always come with? It comes with a warranty and it comes with a manual. It tells us how to keep that product or that car going and maintained. Because if we decided to treat it, use it, service it, whatever, any way we wanted to, that product wouldn't last. And to have a guarantee lets us know that it's been through some product management. It's been tested, if you like. And again, now's not the time and the place, but over the time of these podcasts, you'll get to know a little bit more about me. Let's go back to 2020. We've talked about that. A year later, I happened to be visiting my daughter and son-in-law in Queenstown, and I had another near-death experience. I actually fell face forward, planted straight onto the pavement right there by the lake. Now, it wasn't from doing something silly, but it literally was the boots that I had on hog-tied. The hooks connected with each other, and I had nowhere to go, so I face planted. And you'll be able to see a photo just shortly after the accident and how terrible I looked. Broke my arm, dislocated the elbow joint. I actually thought I was dead. Thankfully, though, I wasn't. And I was a little bit worried that I'd never be able to get the proper use of my right arm again, but managed to get over that, and that didn't happen. What we've got to do when we have these little incidences and accidents, things that are out of our control, is we've got to come to terms with ways of dealing with those hiccups in life that come along. Now, some may choose to go to alternative means that aren't really good for either their mental prowess or their body. But I'd like to encourage ones that are out there that have never tried picking up a paintbrush or a pencil and do some drawing. Art is a way of escapism, and it brings so much joy. You've literally just got to put the time aside and give it a go. For me, I started off small. I started with watercolors based on my own photography, just off of my iPhone, and then replicated those landscapes or those icons that we have here in Sydney into little postcard size papers, and they're now greeting cards on my website if you ever want to have a look. That started the joy and the passion. Now, though, I'm into big scale acrylics and mixed media. And again, they're featured on my site too. I probably haven't mentioned yet why I want to do the podcast. It's not just to help other inspired artists or ones that want to start up. It's actually to drive people to my website. So anyone in the art sector knows it takes a lot of toughness without becoming bitter in order to get things achieved. What I want to explain by that is the behind the scenes, whether it's, for example, like what's happening right here and now, going all out and doing a podcast, that costs money. Having an e-commerce website, not cheap. But my view on this is if we ever go into pandemic again, at least I can try and sell art. And to have your home looking beautiful, a lot of people went all out during that time period. I read recently about the coin of the saying of, the forever poor artist. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I will say this. Last year, I did get done badly by a fellow artist. And I'm not going to go down the path of who that was, but I will say it was a studio in Queensland and someone that I thought could be trusted. Here's a warning for you. If you ever do any business with someone in Queensland, do you know that they've got a law that verbal contracts are as binding as a written contract? I never knew. And because my work situation dried up last year and I had a few other unforeseen occurrences, I was happy to sort of make certain payments, but it went, dare I say it went to fair trading and it did cost me, but it taught me. Surprisingly enough though, this year I've landed through Sydney Community College the best teaching job I have ever had in my whole life. So this is an example of not giving up. If you're passionate about something, especially anything in the creative field, don't give up. Look for ones that you can trust, do a lot of research and cover your bases. And hopefully, like me, you'll end up putting to one side the misfortunes that we have and look to a brighter side. I can't wait for you to meet my guest soon. That's it for now. artOfficial, first episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Please go to the website, have a look. I'd love your feedback and I'd love your feedback on this podcast and any of the artists out there, anywhere in Australia. There's ways that we can line up with them and have an interview with them. So please spread the word. I'd love to have them on artOfficial and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.